odd beliefs or magical thinking that influences behavior and is inconsistent with subcultural norms. So these individuals might be superstitious or preoccupied with paranormal phenomena, again, that are outside the norms of their subculture. So there are culturally sanctioned exceptions to this. But if their subculture doesn't support these beliefs, believing in telepathy or clairvoyance, believing that if your husband walked the dog because you were just thinking that he needs to walk the dog, that is magical thinking. That your thoughts influence reality, or that you can control others. All of that is included in this criterion. And so these patients are out of touch with reality. And whether you call it delusional or not depends on how convinced they are. And so if they just have a tendency to believe these things, but you can sit them down and with logic kind of get them to say, all right, well, maybe it's not true, but that sure did seem like it, then they're not delusional. However, they could very well be delusional. They could very well say, no, it happens all the time. I can read your mind. Now, there are exceptions to this. They're called culturally sanctioned delusions. And that's where you have these bizarre ideas, bizarre meaning that it's not plausible. It couldn't happen. So you could have a delusion that is plausible, that it might happen. People might be plotting against you. They might be talking about you. But if you believe that aliens came down and did these things, there are probably aliens, but they're so far away from us that the idea of aliens abducting you and running experiments on you and then returning you, that's a bizarre delusion. It's not part of reality. It's not possible. But culturally sanctioned delusions can include the bizarre. And so it would be, for example, like believing in voodoo. And there is a subculture. There's a region of the United States and a subculture that believes that you can cast spells on people, curses, and that you can take dolls and you can put pins in them and that will make that person sick. And there are people that really believe that. But what's the point of saying, well, it's culturally sanctioned? Well, the point is that you don't give those patients, those individuals, let me say, they're not even patients, right? People that believe in voodoo, they're not going to present for treatment. I hope this is not offending anybody out there who may be watching this who was raised in a culture that believed in voodoo. But the point is that they don't present for treatment, and you don't treat them, you don't give them D2 blockers, dopamine antagonists, because that's not going to help. There's nothing wrong with their brain. They were raised into that belief. So other examples that are given in the DSM are belief in life beyond death. That's most religions. Speaking in tongues, shamanism, mind reading, sixth sense, having a sixth sense, the evil eye, magical beliefs related to health and illness. That's the evil eye. So there are a lot of examples. If somebody believed in the tooth fairy and you really couldn't convince them, now children, it's an exemption. So it's culturally appropriate, it's developmentally and age appropriate if you're very little to believe in the tooth fairy and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. But then as you get older, the culture no longer sanctions it. It will sanction it until you're a certain age. Then it becomes a symptom. It becomes problematic. And truthfully, if a child continued to believe in Santa Claus well into adulthood, well, that would be a delusion, and there is something wrong with their brain because they're not accepting what society is now telling them, which is, sorry to break it to you, kid, but we all lied to you when you were little.